Good evening and welcome to the second installment of Arts for Learning Connecticut's Visual and Virtual Showcase series. After tonight, there are 4 more virtual showcase presentations at varying times and dates, all culminating on November 10th. Please visit aflct.org/showcase for dates, times, and registration information. All showcase presentations run around 2.5 hours, so you can tune in and out as it works for you. We're hosting these on Zoom webinar as well as Facebook Live. What you will see here today are 7 20-minute snippets of the virtual programming some of our artists are ready to deliver to students online. There will be time for Q&A, so we urge you to type questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen next to the chat option. Now we will go over to Lorraine, our program manager, to introduce our first artist. Enjoy.
Good evening, everybody. Iddi Saaka is from northern Ghana. He has been dancing extensively since childhood. After graduating with distinction from the dance department of the School of Performing Arts at the University of Ghana, Iddi moved to LA to pursue a degree in choreography. In 2004, Iddi published a children's book, Soro, Bindi, the Drumming Mouse, in Israel. In 2003, Iddi released a CD of original music that combines African and Western music styles. Today, we will see a portion of Iddi's program called Soro Bindi. This interactive performance incorporates traditional Ghanaian dances, songs, stories, and explanations of Ghanaian culture. Iddi Saaka leads the children through various authentic cultural dances. Between dances, the students learn about Ghana through multiple stories. When the program can resume in person, students are invited to play traditional Ghanaian instruments and join together at the end of a big circle dance. The performance can be adapted for specific age groups. Soro Bindi teaches students about Africa in general and Ghana in particular. The performance encourages students to respect and appreciate different cultures through the exploration of Ghana and its art forms. Please join me in a warm welcome for Iddi Saaka.
Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? Great. My name is Iddi Saaka, and I come from Ghana, but now I live in Middletown. And I teach dance at Wesleyan University, and I also do this performance through Arts for Learning Connecticut. Our performance today is called Soro Bindi. Can we all say Soro Bindi? Yes, Soro Bindi. Now, as I said before, I come from Ghana. Who can tell us where we can locate Ghana? In what continent can we find Ghana? Right. Ghana is in Africa, the continent of Africa, right? Now, is Ghana in the northern part, the southern, eastern, western, or central part of Africa? Where can we find Ghana in Africa? Yes, now Ghana is in West Africa. Yeah? And I come from a small village in the northern part of Ghana called Violin. And in Ghana we have over 50 languages. One of the languages is called Gonja. Can we say Gonja? Yes, Gonja, and that is my language. Now in my village, when you say you're walking in the street and you meet someone, it is very, very important that you greet a person. Even if you don't know the person, you still have to greet, because it will be a sign of disrespect to meet someone on the street and pass by without greeting. And by the time you get home, there will be a complaint waiting for you. So I'm going to teach you how to greet in my language. When you meet someone in the morning, you say, Ansuma. Can we all say Ansuma? Yes, and then the person responds, Awo. Very good. Now let's try it. I'm going to greet you and you respond. So your response is Awo. Yeah, I will do Ansuma and you do Awo. So let's try that. Ansuma. Very good. Now if you meet someone in the afternoon, you say Entree. The response is always Awo. Yeah, so let me greet you. I'm going to greet Entree and you respond Awo. So Entree. Awo. Very good. And then in the evening, it's Anula. That's the greeting. And the response is Awo once again. So let's try it. I'm greeting and you respond. Yeah? Anula. Awo. Beautiful. So today, I am here to take you on a very short journey to Ghana through music, dance, and storytelling. Now, this performance is normally between 45 minutes to 50 minutes long, but today I'm just making it short, giving you just 10 minutes of the whole performance, yeah? So, I want to tell you about life in Ghana. In Ghana, we have two different lifestyles. We have city life and village life. Life in the city in Ghana is somehow similar to life in the States, because we have paved streets with tall buildings that have supermarkets where people buy their groceries. And we have cars, and we have electricity in the cities, and so kids who live in the cities watch television and play computer games, just like you guys do in the States. But in the villages, for example, in my village, we don't have paved streets. No tall buildings. In fact, most of the buildings are built with mud. We don't have supermarkets, and so people have to grow their own food. And in most of these villages, we don't have electricity. And so that means that kids who live in such villages do not watch television, neither do they play computer games. And so, because they don't have television and no computer games, they have to find other ways to entertain themselves. Now, what do you guys think kids can do for fun if they don't have television and no computer games? Yes? Yeah? Great. Now, kids in Ghana do all these things you guys have mentioned, but today what I want to share with you is the music, dance, and stories that they use to entertain themselves in the villages in Ghana. One of such dances is called Tanglewood. Can we all say Tanglewood? Yes. Now, Tanglewood is a recreational dance that kids just like you do in the evening. When they come back from school, they finish eating dinner and doing their homework, they bring out this drum. This drum is called the Tanglewood drum because it's the drum that provides the music for the Tanglewood dance. And whoever hears the sound of this drum in the evening, they all come up together, they drum, sing, and dance. And that's how they have fun in the villages of Ghana. Now, do you guys want to see Cello today? Okay, then let's enjoy Cello.
Even kids just like you,
when they go to school, they don't have backpacks. Most of them don't have backpacks. And so they carry the books on their heads. And I grew up carrying stuff on my head my entire life. And so I am very, very good at it. And I mean very, very good. Now, do you guys want to see how I do it? Yeah? Okay, I will show you. So watch, I will take this and demonstrate how easy it is. Let's see. So I can just put it like this, and I can walk miles and miles without it. I'll try it again. This is really easy for me because I've been doing this my entire life. And so I can walk miles and miles without it falling. Well, I don't know what has happened to me today, but it looks like it's not working out for me. Well, it happens sometimes. So let's move on. Now, I want to tell you about this stool. This is a very, very special stool. In fact, this is a magical stool. This stool was given to me by the chief of my village, and this is what gave me the power to dance. When he gave it to me, he told me, Iddi, please take very, very good care of this stool, and make sure that it never falls. Because if it falls, you are going to lose your power to dance. And so because of that, I really cherish this stool, because I want to be able to dance for a long time, and so I don't mess around with this stool.
One round,
to be together. Okay, I hope I get an opportunity to do the full performance in your school. So this has been Soro Bindi. I hope you had a great time. So now we will go to questions. Whatever questions you have, this is the time for you to ask about the performance, about myself, or about Ghana. Anything you have? Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow, that was amazing, Iddi. Thank you again. Before we introduce our next guest, we want to remind you all to check out the rest of the virtual showcase series registration information on our website at aflct.com/showcase. The next showcase is Monday, October 19th from 10 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. Now, Alex will introduce you to the next artist. Take it away, Alex.
Hello again. Tanglewood Marionettes is a nationally known touring theater group based in New England. Large, beautifully handcrafted marionettes, colorful sets, and integrated lighting and sound create a fully immersive theatrical experience. Their highly skilled puppeteers have spent many years perfecting their art, delighting audiences of all ages as they bring their repertoire of classic tales to life. They are recipients of 2 Unima Awards, puppetry's highest honor, for their productions, An Arabian Adventure and The Dragon King. Presentations average about 45 minutes in length and may include a lively puppetry demonstration prior to the performance, if it's done in person, and a question and answer session following the show. Tonight, we are seeing an excerpt from Perseus. We'll take a trip back in time to the dawn of civilization, to an ancient world of gods, goddesses, prophecies, and heroes. In this masterful production, you will accompany Perseus through personal trials and glorious quests. A lavish show featuring beautiful handcrafted marionettes, swirling sets, exotic music, and much more. The ancient world has never been so accessible. Tanglewood Marionettes has many other performances. Check them out on our website. Enjoy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Schaefer, and I'm the Artistic Director of Tanglewood Marionettes. And as you just heard, the story we're going to preview for you tonight is Perseus and Medusa. We're going to start off with a taste of our live puppetry demo. We're going to follow that with a short video, about a 6-minute long video, which has excerpts from Perseus and Medusa. And then we're going to conclude with our live Q&A, and Peter's going to kick that off by answering a couple of the most commonly asked Perseus and Medusa questions that we get when we perform in schools. And after that, we will open up the Q&A to you and take your questions, and Peter and I will be happy to answer any questions about what you guys have seen tonight. So, without any further ado, I'm very proud to introduce Peter Schaefer. Take it away, Peter.
Thanks, Ann. Hi, before we get to the show, I just want to talk to you guys about marionettes. Now, a marionette is a puppet that is worked by strings using a control. Now, can you guys tell me why we call this particular control an airplane control? Yeah, it looks like it's shaped like an airplane. And the string we use is actually fishing line, but you can use any type of string you want. And the string goes from parts of the control down to various parts of our puppet's body. And an average human marionette for us will have about 9 or 13 strings. They have 2 leg strings, so we can make them walk. They have 2 hand strings, they can wave and gesture. Hi, everybody. They have 2 elbow strings, so they can do the funky chicken. They have 2 shoulder strings, so we can make them look down. They have 2 head strings to look from side to side. They have a chin string or nose string so they can look up. And then a back string for balance and bowing. And working a marionette is a lot like playing musical instrument. You know, when you first start your so-so, and then the more you do it, the more complicated movements you can put together. One of the things we like to teach our new puppeteers is to think about how our bodies move. For example, if you were to lay down How would you get up? Would you just stand up? That didn't look very realistic. Or maybe you would lift up your knees. Maybe get your arms out a little bit. Move your weight. And then stand up. That looked a little bit better. Thanks, everybody. So with that little taste, please, we are very proud to present Perseus and Medusa. Thank you.
But I wish to see the world. I cannot help the way I feel. Inside, something is telling me that there is more to my life than this hut, this boat.
And your mother?
I did not mean that. You do not understand.
Why is it the young are so ready to believe that their parents do not understand? I too had dreams when I was young, before I met your father.
It is the most valuable item my family possesses.
Whatever it was not good enough for a prince.
No one has the right to act as you have done.
You watch your mouth, boy. I have every right. I am your ruler, and you are nothing.
I am as good as you.
Be careful of your words, vagabond. My father is king.
It is unwise to curse the gods when you are in such need of their help.
Are you a god?
I am Pallas Athena. Listen to me, Perseus. Your quest is foolhardy. No mortal can face the Gorgon unaided and live. She has the strength of 30 men. Her hair is a deadly array of poisonous snakes. Worse than these are the power of her eyes, for whosoever looks Medusa in the face must turn forever into stone.
Time to speak to these shoes. Hello, aren't you a good-looking pair of sandals? Why don't we fly to the frozen north together? Now would be a good time to fly. Please fly. I command you, fly. These sandals are broken. Wait, what exactly did Athena say? Speak to them. No, wait, she said, speak to them up and something else. What was it? Oh yes, away. She meant speak to them the words up and away. Whoa! 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 Hold on there. Down, boys. All right. North. Go north. Whoa! We're in the final leg of the decathlon, citizens, and Meleager, Atalanta, and Nestor are in the lead. But who is this? It's Perseus, citizens, passing them at blinding speed. He moves like he's got wings on his feet. By Hades, it's cold. I should have brought a cloak. Who can live in a place like this? Freezing cold and nothing in sight but this ugly, barren rock.
Well, I think you're an ugly, puny-looking sack of flesh.
Wow!
And now, you will have to fight for them with me, Hesperia, nymph guardian of the sacred tree.
That's all right. If they're forbidden, I won't take any.
What?
I mean, I was hungry, but I don't want to break any rules.
You mean that's it? You're not going to fight?
No thanks.
Oh, come on.
No, really.
But look at these apples. They're fabulous. There are no other apples like this on Earth. You said you were hungry.
I'm not looking for a fight with you.
How about we wrestle? Best 2 out of 3.
Stop! Ow! What's the matter with you? I'm not gonna fight you.
Yeah! You're in trouble now! This is one nymph that rides like a centaur!
Oh, more bodies.
Someone is here. Someone has come to my garden to pay me a visit. How wonderful. It has been too long since I have had a guest.
Give me the bag.
The head is yours. That was the agreement. But be warned, Polydectes. That is the real head of Medusa in that bag, and opening it will forever put an end to your malicious pride.
I will put your head in this bag, outlaw. You're a dead man.
Heed my words, Polydectes.
No! It is a trick! You cannot go without my leave to depart. I am your ruler. I will find and expose you, Perseus. He is a fraud. It's a lie. I will prove it to the world.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our presentation of Perseus and Medusa. One of the questions we get all the time about the show is how did we change Prince Polydectes into stone? And right here I have our stone Polydectes. Now he's made just like the other Polydectes, the same head and same body and same costume. But to make him look like stone, we covered him in a material similar to Elmer's glue that when cures makes a hard shell, and then we painted him to look like stone. Now I don't have enough room here in the studio to show you exactly how this works, but we made a quick clip so you can see what happens. In our show, we changed Prince Polydectes into stone. The way we achieve that is, if you didn't guess, our column is actually hollow, and we have two Polydectes. We have a regular Polydectes, and we have a Polydectes that looks like stone. So before the show, we put the stone prince inside the column, and when we set the column on the stage, no one knows he's here.
I'm here, I'm here.
And then during the show, we do the old switcheroo trick. The prince goes, and that's how we change the prince into stone. The next question we get is, how do we get the marionettes to hold things? So in the show, Cerberus, the three-headed dog in the underworld, picks up a sword out of a stone, and I have that right here. And the way this trick works is the sword has a hook on the back of it, and we take Cerberus's middle head's nose string and we loop it underneath the hook. We pick up the slack and the sword just hangs off his nose. So that's how this particular trick works. And now I'm going to turn it over to Anne at the main console and join her to answer your questions. So if you have a question about the story, the puppets, or anything else, please put it in the chat sections and we'd be happy to answer. Anne?
Thank you, everyone. We are available for questions now. Peter's going to make his way over here. Thanks, Alex.
Yes, hello.
I don't know.
Questions here if you're ready to answer them.
Yeah, hold on. Hold on, Alex, 1 second. Let me just bring Peter in. I'm going to disconnect. See if.
We can't hear you. Can we hear you now? No, we still can't hear you.
Try that.
Yes, now we can.
Okay, good.
Great.
Good.
All right. So what version of the myth would you suggest the students read in preparation before seeing the Perseus Medusa presentation?
So there are lots of great Greek anthologies of Greek myths out there. One of the really good ones for, I say, elementary school students is probably D'Aulaire's Book of Myths. For older kids, middle, high school students, you might want to try the Edith Hamilton mythology. It's pretty scholarly, but she cites a lot of the original Greek sources, so it's good.
Percy Jackson.
And then Percy Jackson, of course, for the modern kid.
Those are all great. D'Aulaire's was one of my favorites as a kid. I actually still have it at home.
Yes, it's a wonderful book.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. So do all of your virtual presentations follow the same format that we saw today?
Yes, the virtual show that we developed, which is sort of a live beginning, a pre-recorded center, and then the live Q&A at the end. We sort of wanted to mimic our in-person shows, so we created this so that it would be kind of like a one-off thing that a presenter could schedule, sort of almost the same way they would schedule one of our in-person shows, kind of a self-contained event.
Oop, I was muted there. Can you expand a little bit more about the Q&A session? I know that many schools have different expectations and different norms for the way they present things digitally. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, one of the things that we can do, because we're remote here at home, is we actually can bring stuff that we can't bring to the schools with us. This is the one ahead that Anne's been working on, that we can, whoa.
Okay.
So that's kind of fun, having that ability to, instead of just talking in front of a presentation, to actually be able to go and say, hey, look at this.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we're trying to explore the ways that, because this new technology, to try and use it in ways that we wouldn't be able to do when we were doing an in-person show.
Show them the picture in picture.
Oh, okay. One of the things we can do is we can, do instant replay. We have a picture in picture, and we can scrub through the show. If a kid has a question about, the Gray sisters here, we can bring up the scene and we can talk about it specifically. So instant replay, guys, it's a good thing. So.
No kidding. Yeah, you really have your technology figured out. That was pretty sweet. We have one more question here.
Sure.
How long are your virtual presentations, and how many students could you accommodate, or a group? How many?
Yeah, the show's anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour is sort of the usual time span that we're looking at. We are a little flexible. We can run a little bit longer if you need it or have the time. We can also cut it short if we need to cut it short. And then
the number of students, Tanglewood Marionettes doesn't put any limitations on the number of students for each virtual presentation, but if there are any limitations, it's probably, or it would be the presenter, their Zoom account only accommodates 100 or 300, but we don't set any limitations on that. The more the merrier.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before you sign off for the night?
I can't wait to see you in person again.
But until then, in spirit's pretty good.
Yes, thank you so much for all of your hard work, and have a great evening. Thanks for
having us.
Bye.
And before we move on to our next artist, I want to make a quick correction. It was my fault as I typed it into the script. Lorraine said that our website was AFLCT.com. That was my mistake. We are AFLCT.org. So once again, if you'd like to check out the lineup for our upcoming showcases, it is AFLCT.org/showcase, not.com. So again, apologies about that. So we're moving on to our next performer of the evening. His name is Gideon Freudmann. Gideon Freudmann's mastery of classical cello, combined with his skillful use of electronics, introduces students to the cello history and construction, offers a wide variety of musical styles from classical, folk, pop, and jazz, and salutes the joy of music making. Gideon melds classical precision with the power of technology using electronics combined with classical bowing techniques, pizzicato, strumming, and finger picking, allowing him to tap into the mysteries of the cello's expansive potential. Students come away with a greater understanding of the cello, the science of sound, and a sense of joy as music makers and music listeners. Imagine the passion of a Mozart aria or the fury of a Bartok quartet layered in an R&B sensibility. This is the essence of Gideon's program Cello Bop, which incorporates an evocative new musical form that melds classical precision with the power of technology. Gideon gives students a closer look at the masterful match of music and science in his Sound Science program. Today, we will see a part of Gideon's virtual program offerings, so sit back and enjoy the sound of the cello. Be sure to type your question and answers in the Q&A box below. Enjoy.
Hello, my name is Gideon Freudmann, and I am a cello player. This is a cello. This is a bow. And here is a little excerpt from Suite Number 1 by Johann Sebastian Bach, a 300-year-old piece of music, the most famous piece of cello music of all time. You can make sound on a cello by drawing a bow across the strings gently, or push a little harder into the strings to make it louder, or move it very quickly, or do a lot of short notes, or a fast bow bouncing, or turn the bow upside down. All right, well, nobody does that, but you can, and I do. And you can pluck a string called pizzicato, or strum, or go nuts. And you can plug a cello in with a little pickup in the bridge and do other things with the sounds, like make notes echo using a digital delay. So you can play one short note and have it echo, or play a long note that becomes an extra long note. Or play a strange sound that becomes an extra strange sound. Or play something fun and rhythmic. You can also use a looper, which is a recording device that captures what you do in the moment and then plays it over and over. And you can play a whole musical phrase, which is a collection of notes. And then you can play along with that. Add layers to it. he could play a cello like a guitar and sing along. Everybody knows Chevrolet car, everybody knows they're the best there are. Oh, it hums like a bee, Chevrolet 6 can't be beat. I said, oh, it hums like a bee, Chevrolet 6 can't be beat. Na na, na na, na na, na na, na na, na na, na na. Everybody! Na na, na na, na na, na na, na na, na na. My name is Gideon Freudmann. Thank you for listening and have a fabulous day.
Hi there, here I am in person. Well, I'm in the same room and I'm all the way across the country. I live in Portland, Oregon. I grew up in New England and I used to do lots and lots of young audience performances in Connecticut and Massachusetts. And now I've been in the habit of coming out there about once a year, and because of our pandemic, it's not happening at the moment, but I'm excited to be able to share my music with you and learning how to make videos and things like that. But here's just a little bit of live music with the few minutes that remain. And I've made it a habit for as long as I have been performing to always incorporate something new and spontaneous. And here's a brand new thing I've been working on. So we'll give it a go. Well, that's a new one. It doesn't even have a title yet. We'll call it the Young Audience Showcase Blues. That is the end of the musical presentation, and this would be a good time to answer questions, and really happy to have this opportunity.
So Gideon, we actually have one question in the chat, so let me read that out loud. Well, there's two parts. The first part was, where do you live? So that's a quick response.
I live in Portland, Oregon.
Yes, thank you. So, and a quick note on that as well to all of our attendees. One of the pieces of silver lining as coming with the virtual programming is normally Gideon gives us a few dates a year when he's traveling to this part of the country for programming to be booked. So again, silver lining is that many of our traveling artists that live all over the place no longer have limited dates for this year, and hopefully for dates in the future. So this actually opened up a lot of artists more dates. So that's a cool note there about where you live. And then the other part of this question and comment from Tess, I love the visual quality of your presentation as well as the audio. Very clever and engaging. Do you have a favorite age group to work with?
I don't. Actually, one of the things that has kept music so fun and thrilling for me over the years is that I'm always playing 4 different age groups, and that's not just kids either. But I like a challenge. So I find, you know, little kids are really just wide-eyed and open, and that's fun and very gratifying. Middle schoolers sometimes start getting a little too cool for school, and that is extra fun for me because I kind of get a special thrill out of playing for kids, doing something goofy like singing na 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 and seeing some kids kind of rolling their eyes and then winning them over the course of a show. And then they're singing along, they're being silly, they're looking at their friends like, come on, this is fun, this is cool. And then, you know, on the rare occasions I get to play in high schools for older kids, it's nice to be able to get a little more sophisticated with the things that I'm presenting. But I really welcome the opportunity to play for all audiences.
Yes, thank you for that answer. I can relate. I used to teach middle school. If you know what kind of humor they like, you can get there. So some of our other questions, can you describe some of your other program offerings that you have?
Yeah, the 2 main concert presentations that I do are Cello Bop, and that video that we just saw is a very shortened version of that. It's the 500-year whirlwind history of the cello, boiled down to 45 minutes, or in that case, 5 minutes. So that's a real whirlwind. I do another program called Sound Science. And Sound Science explores the intersection of art and science. And my art of choice is music. But music has these various components. There's a mathematical aspect to it, where music has a pulse and beats, you know, so if you're playing a piece that has this piece and you subdivide, you know, cut these beats in half or into 3 beats. Suddenly everybody's waltzing, and then you play 2 notes together and there's harmonies and frequencies, and I use electronics things to make notes. Echo? Wow, I surprised myself with that sound. You know, amplifiers and recording technology, and that's all very scientific, but music is also art. It is an expression of human emotion. It's how we convey feelings, happiness, sadness, melancholy, you name it. And so music is really both of these things. It's all these mathematical and scientific elements as well as this artistic expression, and so it's an exploration of that, and I adapt that program to the age group that I'm playing for, and don't get too heady with the 7-year-old set, but I like to go a little deeper with the older kids. And then additionally, I do workshops where I teach different aspects of playing, and I'm particularly interested in improvisation. So I like to most music students learn to read music, and they learn a little bit about theory and about reading notes, and I like to help get them off the page and say, well, here's just how you play. Let's do something simple and get a little funky. Because I like to get funky, and so I like to get kids just playing more emotionally and responding to each other, and playing, you know, little duets and trios, and trying to make things that are harmonious and also just fun, silly sounds. And more recently, I've just added a new program where I do live soundtracks for silent films, and I'm figuring out now how to adapt that for young audiences in this context. I don't have that quite ready to go yet with Zoom, but I'm excited to do it. In fact, I'm going to be doing this program soon for adults in Washington State, and I'll be in a studio playing the music, and the movie is going to be shown on a big drive-in screen. So this will be my first time playing music for a drive-in, so always something new. So
that's very cool. What a creative way to pass the time these days.
Yeah.
That's neat. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey from artist to teaching artist and how you kind of came to develop your programming and your ideas for teaching?
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of questions over the years, and particularly because what I do has I've long been kind of straying off the beaten path a little bit and painting, you know, at the edges of the lines and outside the lines. And so I've had people ask me, how do you do that? How do you get that sound? What got you interested in playing that way? So from a relatively early age, I found myself trying to find ways to explain to people what I do and how I do it and why I do it. And I've also taught a lot of private lessons over the years. And so, you know, doing, you know, one-on-one lessons with kids and people all ages, finding ways to demonstrate, to show proper technique for playing, but also ways to stretch and play in some unusual ways. And then, you know, found my way somehow to young audiences and ways to get in front of bigger audiences, which has been terrific.
Thanks for that answer. We have one more question, but I think we kind of answered it a bit, but I'll give you a chance. How does living in Oregon affect your work with Arts for Learning during the pandemic?
It has, you know, like for so many people, it's forced me to find other ways to connect with people. And I don't know that this has anything to do with Oregon specifically, but just in terms of playing during a pandemic and, you know, well, I've been delving more and more into my recording because that's something I can do here in my space and control that, but also doing live streams and doing lessons online, things like that. And also, you know, it rains a bit in Oregon now and then here in Western Oregon. And by a little bit, I mean like nonstop for 6 months. So, you know, you have to find ways to connect with people without being out in the wet. And so that's been a little bit different. But I think I just recently made an album with somebody who lives in Massachusetts, and we worked on it for over 2 years, and the entire project was done long distance. He's in Western Massachusetts, and I'm here, and we were trading files back and forth. And then it just so happened we released the album in March, just when the pandemic hit, and the only way to work together at that point would be remotely anyway. So I feel like I've kind of been prepping for this inadvertently for a while. But yeah, it's just been, it's interesting time for everybody, and it's a good opportunity to get more creative and find ways to work together from far apart.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And what better group of people to be kind of hunkered down with than creative artists? And there's one more question, actually. Someone is wondering what that instrument behind you is. That looks like it has...
This is my electric cello. Ta-da! Ah. And so it is very much like an acoustic cello in terms of it's got 4 strings and the string length is the same, and you play it in a similar way. But this cello makes a sound whether or not it's plugged in, and this one is very quiet unless it's plugged in. And the acoustic cello, this one I do plug in and I can do things with the sound, but it's always producing its own acoustic tone, which is part of what's happening in any setting where I'm playing. But with this electric cello back here, it only does what you know, what I can, based on how I control the sound. So if I'm using a delay or a looper or distortion or something, you don't hear any of the pure acoustic tone, you only get that. And when I do my sound science program, I always incorporate that cello as well, because it's part of the science element. You know, it's another technological change that has occurred and something that affects music making.
Definitely. Well, thank you. Thanks, Gideon, for that super informative question and answer, and for your pieces of your program. And thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks again. That was great. Before we move on to our next artist, I just want to take a quick moment to tell you about an amazing resource that we have on our website. Many of our own teaching artists, along with our staff, worked together during the most at-home months, March and April and May, to put together a virtual best practices guide. This is available on our website. In this resource, you can find suggestions for equipment, various types of virtual program that you would need for various types of virtual programming, suggested computer programs, how to utilize things like Vimeo and Zoom and all those other platforms, as well as strategies for online student engagement, and much more. There's also a more technical list of equipment linked to the bottom of that page, and we'll go ahead and drop that link into the chat for you today. And now I'm going to tell you about our next artist, Jay from Playful Engineers. So Jay Mankita has worked with kids and families for over 30 years. His engineering workshops are experimental and inspiring. Jay has a strong passion for engineering and making things move, and teaches how he learns, with patience, humor, and lots of room for mistakes, which is the greatest way to learn. When he's not engineering, Jay is an award-winning and masterful Parent Choice Award-winning songwriter, guitarist, humorist, and performing artist, a seasoned veteran of both the children and adult Americana circuit. He's a dad, a teaching artist, a lifelong learner, and tries to live by the same principles he shares in his Rube Goldberg machine workshops. Define your goal, keep each part simple, obey the laws of physics, and have fun. Normally, Jay brings tons of items and supplies to you in your community to make these works of creative engineering, but today we're lucky enough to see how Playful Engineers can occur right in your home. Playful Engineers shows us that at home we can work on hands-on STEM-focused things as well, and you all can participate with us here. Sessions are tailored for all ages, abilities, and locations, and are equally great for focused workshops within a grade or with the organized chaos of family science night in during these pandemic times. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Jay of Playful Engineers.
Thank you, Alex. Can everybody hear me? I'll take that as a yes. So, welcome to my workshop. I wish we had more than 10 minutes, but this is what I've got set up for you today. I like building Rube Goldberg machines. Of course, a Rube Goldberg machine is a complicated way to accomplish a simple task. And my simple task right here is this ping pong ball getting launched into the air by this block hitting this lever, which acts as a catapult, short end down, long end up, because of these scaled up blocks from smaller to larger. And I wanted to talk to you about chain reactions, because building a chain reaction just means that we are utilizing the principle of cause and effect. Our whole universe runs on cause and effect. Nothing is separate from that. Everything is connected. So when I build a chain reaction, I start with my goal and I work my way backwards. And each part is simple because a system is a collection of parts that work together. And every part is simpler than the system of which it's a whole, of the whole system. So when this falls down, it hits that. This is just a simple lever. It's just rotating around this bottom edge right there, which is what levers do. They rotate around a fixed point. Each one of these is another lever, simple part, and they all go together. Now, I have a few other things here, but before I show you, I think I'm just going to go ahead and set this off. Because I get impatient sometimes. I want to make sure everything works before I set up a whole other machine. And when I'm setting up a machine, I keep bringing in these other parts. This is made from a coat hanger that I cut, and then I wound it around a tube. As a matter of fact, I have the tube right over here that I used. You can see how it fits right around there. I just wound it around as tight as I could, and then it kept the shape of this cardboard tube. Let's put that over there. Then I drilled some holes in this block. But even if you don't have a drill or wood, then you can always find other ways to stand something like this up. But I like this because if you take the inside of a Scotch tape roll, you can illustrate the principle of the spiral just like that. And again, this can become part of another machine when you just link up two simple parts together. Here's a track. I like these Hot Wheels tracks, of course, but if you don't have Hot Wheels tracks, you can just make one right out of cardboard, which is what I did. I just cut it with a pair of scissors. I used scissors to cut a half a circle at the end. I bent it up. Actually, I used a ruler right here, and then I just bent it up around the sides. And the nice thing about having this half circle here is that this ball will just sit right at the top there because of friction holding it on like so. Let's see if I can get this slightly higher, just like so. You remember in my introduction, Alex was talking about how I learn from failure, and I do fail a lot. So I try not to get upset, but instead to remember my growth mindset, which is to be able to acknowledge my failure now in order to allow for my learning later on. So I'm going to adjust this, put the ball back up here like so, and patience is a learned skill. There we go. And then the ball will come down here. I can do the same thing with something like this, a book. The ping pong ball will sit there, but if I take something like, well, gee, here's a popsicle stick right here. If I put it under the end of the book, now the ball will want to roll. And so I can make the top of a book into a track as well. As a matter of fact, I'd like to show you this. I have a book top ball run right here. Those dominoes, of course, they're there to deflect the ball. They absorb some of the force, and so they let the ball continue on the easiest course. Now I do all kinds of chain reactions using all kinds of materials that either found objects or household materials. This is a tether ball going around a steel threaded rod, and that's an actual chain, of course. I call this one Feed the Dog, even though they're just eating wooden pegs, because I didn't want to, well, I don't have a dog, so I don't have dog food. And this is another way to use tracks from ordinary objects. Rubber bands, tubes, and another view of the same machine here. Because the number one question that I get from kids is, I don't have that kind of stuff. How can I build the same way that you build? And of course the answer is with whatever kind of stuff you have lying around, or that you can find or make yourself or change, modify. That's what engineers do. We improve things. We take the best science that we can learn and we put it to work. And that's what I do when I build things out of found materials like this track. This is just built in my windowsill. I like that a lot. So I wanted to show you a couple of other things. It's Halloween coming up, so I made this skeleton here. This takes advantage of the fact that a force is a push or a pull. This is a pull right here. When I pull on the string, I'm changing the direction of motion. I'm changing motion from linear motion in a line to rotational motion in a circle. When I drop this off of my table, then it does the work for me. I don't have to pull it because gravity is doing the pulling. And this is just a stick in a hole, just like so. And there's very little friction, so it's able to turn freely. But what if you don't have a drill, like I asked before? Well, this is the same type of machine. This one is a zombie instead of a skeleton. My son made this zombie out of tin foil and some fabric. Let's see if I can get it a little bit closer here. Maybe you can see that like so. And he kind of looks like a Jedi Knight, I guess, sitting down. Zombie, Jedi Knight zombie. This is a string wound around a cup, and underneath the cup is another cup. This one's a little heavier because it's made of metal, and a set of marbles just sitting there at the top. Now, they serve as ball bearings, which is another way to reduce friction. And this, of course, is just taped to the top there with some duct tape. And when I drop this domino off the table, then it does the same thing. Now here it got stuck. I'm going to explore, when I put my block back down, I put the tape. You can see what happened from this camera here. Oops, let's go back to this camera there. I taped the string to the tape by accident. Now when that kind of thing happens, that tells me the number one failure of an engineer is the failure to pay attention to the details. And so that's what I'm going to do next time. I'm going to make sure that my string is not touching the tape. I'm going to drop this off the table, and that should work fine. And it's the ball bearings that reduces the friction. So these are the kind of things that I make. I think my show and tell time is up, so it may be time for some questions, but though I'm happy to show more stuff if you'd like to see it. So I don't know if anyone heard that.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
So Jay, we have some questions for you if you're ready to answer them.
I am ready.
First of all, very, very cool setup you have in there, and I think maybe we'll want a little more. We have a few extra minutes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you had to change your process for teaching normally how you would in person versus now how you would do a workshop?
Yes. So I like to say, this is true, that I was pinching myself and saying, this can't be real, because I just was so happy. I had so many workshops, and I would go and I would bring tons of stuff with me, Tinker Toys and Kinects and ping pong balls and Hot Wheels tracks and lots of different shapes and sizes of wood blocks and dominoes and string and all these different things. And I would get, anywhere between one classroom and 200 people in a room, and everybody would be building together after my demonstration and presentation on basic physics and chain reactions. And when the pandemic hit, I had already scheduled one virtual workshop at the Greenfield Commonwealth Virtual School in Massachusetts. And so I actually got a chance to practice changing over with them, and it was brilliant because the teachers I was working with really understood about teaching on the virtual in the virtual realm. So we went through 4 or 5 different iterations of how to do this, including starting by having kids building while I'm building. I have a big list of suggested household materials, for instance. The problem is, of course, because we have so many ages and abilities and levels of comprehension and retention, that everything that I did either had to, seriously slow down while I was doing it, or, we would lose some of the kids that were already way ahead of where we were. And so after a few tries of doing that, we adjusted it so that the sessions themselves are more demonstration and inspiration. And then I provide a lot of resources, including tutorials, video tutorials, and written tutorials that can be printed out, as well as demonstration videos for each of the techniques, so that a teacher can take, just a 30-second or a 2-minute video and share it with their class, either right after, right before my session, or anytime asynchronously is fine.
Thank you. Because I personally myself was curious. I mean, obviously it's possible. Having just experienced your huge, whole auditorium extravaganzas of engineering, I just was so curious how you kind of thought about that. So that's a good answer. Thank you. Another question is, seeing as you're such a person of many talents. How did your journey from all those things that you do land on Playful Engineers?
Okay, so I was a professional children's performer for many years, and I'm also a dad. And my son now is 12 years old. And at one point he said, "Dad, maybe you should stop being a children's performer." That was one thing. Then another thing was that I just was, when he was 4, we got into Rube Goldberg machines together. And now that's 8 years ago. And the more that I was playing with it, I am not an engineer by trade or education. And but I have learned a lot about hacking toys and about engineering and physics because of my own personal journey over the past 8 years. And I'm reminded of that show, Do You Know More Than a Fifth Grader, I think it's called. And yes, I know more than the average middle schooler about physics and engineering now. And it turns out more than many, well, some of my engineering friends are impressed with what I know. And I'm very proud of myself for my learning journey, because I'm one of those differently abled people when it comes to learning, and a lot like my own, as we say, twice exceptional child with ADD and any other type of gift and challenge combination. So I'm especially sensitive to when I'm working with kids to make sure that I'm bringing everybody along, and at the same time not slowing down to the point where people are going to, like I am right now, when talking about myself.
That's what today is for, you to tell us about yourself. I actually taught 6th grade, and one of the units we did was simple machines, and we did Rube Goldberg machines as well. So it brings back some fun memories for me.
Yeah, and I have gotten into so many different kinds of, this right here, this is one of my other projects that, these are called automata, and it uses gears and linkages, and they're not chain reactions, but they're just, I also do geometry with sticks and dowels and rubber bands. There are a lot of different things. So to finish answering that question, I just decided, to the amazement of my family, I said, I'm going to stop being a children's performer. I just want to build Rube Goldberg machines. Let's see if I can make a career out of it. And that was the end of 2015 that I did that, and so far so good.
That's really cool. That way to take, you know, all your different skills and put them into something inspired by your son. That's very cool.
Yeah, and we still build together.
That's awesome. That's really great, especially now. What a great thing to do with your time at home. That actually leads me to one more question. You did mention you had like a list of household items. So what kind of basic things, if parents are listening in tonight or kids are here right now, what's a little thing they could do or tomorrow, maybe based on what they have at home?
Yeah, so I actually have something right up on my website, and I'm just going to it right now. I have a tutorial blog that is just getting started, but one of the entries on there is just a suggested materials list. And what I'm going to do is just grab this and paste it right into... Can I do that? Can I paste it right into the chat?
I do believe you can, yes. Yes.
Okay, and let's see. I'm just going to say chat, and to all panelists and attendees.
Yep.
And wow, is it true that Zoom won't let me copy and paste?
Oh,
that doesn't seem right.
In any case, it's something that we would be happy to post on our Facebook page, so you can send it to us in email and we can post that tomorrow.
That's great, and it's also on my website as well.
Perfect. So that's great. Before we wrap up, do you think you could give us a quick tour of this very cool space you have?
Wow, you know what? I'm sure that I can if I actually have a GoPro camera that I can wear on my chest and walk around. I don't have that set up, so I'm going to have to just take down this this one right here, and then switch over to it. So give me a moment.
Yeah.
I don't think I cleaned up the other side of my office well enough.
That's okay. I think art spaces and MakerSpaces should be used.
All right, let's see. I think I'll just take off this one then. Okay, let's see how we're doing. All righty. Okay, here is my space like so. And there, that used to be my clothes closet, but now it is no room for clothes. I won't show you where they are now. But here's a whole bunch of other things here. Here, down here, this is my piano here for when I'm doing musical programs. I just pull this out from the wall here. Yeah, there's actually quite a, my greatest feat this week is figuring out a way to have music on one side of my studio and engineering on the other, and to not have them interfere with each other too much.
Well, thank you, Jay. It's funny you should say that. I have the same thing going on in my workspace at home. I have art on one side and work on the other, and trying to keep them separate. But thank you so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we will post all of that information to our Facebook page for any curious viewers to check that out tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, everybody. It was great to be here.
Wonderful. All right, Jay, see ya. All right, that was very cool. And definitely Rube Goldberg machines are super fun. A great thing to do. So moving on to our next artist duo, Jay Katie and Leslie Seifert Katie have given over 6,000 performances in 36 states and 7 foreign countries. They met as members of a performance company in Kansas City, which is where they live. They were married in 1984. The same year, they studied mime with Marcel Marceau. As their own children went to school, they developed curriculum-rich performances and workshops for elementary school students. They used circus and vaudeville skills like juggling, mime, magic, and improvisation to teach math, reading, science, and civics. In 2010, they were awarded the Leighton Prize for Excellence as Teaching Artists by the Kansas City Young Audiences Affiliate. They research their topics and core standards thoroughly to coordinate with what schools are teaching. Their timing has been honed from many years of working together, and their irresistible sense of fun brings out the love of learning in all their audiences. Today, we'll get to see a bit of Jay and Leslie's brand new program about the Electoral College. In the election special, Jay and Leslie used visual aids and humor to explain important election topics in 2 separate videos. One video explains how the Electoral College works, and the other video examines gerrymandering, the creation of weird-shaped legislative districts for political gain. Jay and Leslie's thorough research and deft touch make learning about these tricky topics easy and fun. Optional online follow-up discussions are available as well. Jay and Leslie also have a great math and circus program called Laughing Matters, which we have offered for many years. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jay and Leslie.
Hello there.
Hi, I am Leslie.
And my name is Jay.
And this is the Elections Special. We're going to explain to you about how elections work.
And most elections work in a very simple way. You have candidates here.
These are the 2 candidates?
You can have more than 2. For our example, we'll just have 2 candidates.
It's easier to understand
Red
that way.
and blue, and then there are voters.
These are the voters.
The voters vote for whoever they want.
Okay, can I count up the votes?
Count the votes.
Okay, we're going to count the red votes first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 voters voted for the red candidate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voters voted for the blue candidate, so the red candidate would win.
Red wins 8-7.
This is the way we elect our governors, our senators, our representatives, our mayors. This is the way almost every election in the United States works, except
not when we vote for president and vice president.
The president and vice president get elected together. They are a team that gets elected together, and
when you vote for president and vice president,
you're not really voting for the president and the vice president.
Instead you are voting for a group of people in your state who are promising to vote for your candidate.
These are called the electors, and they are part of the Electoral College.
Right. And each state gets a certain number of electors.
You can figure out how many electors your state gets by adding together the number of senators and the number of representatives. Each state gets the same number of senators. each state gets two senators. And then the more people your state has, the more representatives you have. So this state has 3 representatives and 2 senators to equal 5 electoral college votes.
So then you count up the votes within that state.
We know that the red candidate had 8 and the blue had 7, so these electors promised to vote for the red candidate.
In 48 out of our 50 states.
Not Maine and not Nebraska.
It's a winner-take-all basis. So that means that even though it was a close election down here, it's winner-take-all. Red had more votes. Red gets all 5 electoral votes. Blue gets 0 electoral votes from this
even
state.
though a lot of people voted for the blue candidate. Now, if one of these red voters had voted blue instead, we would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for blue, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for red. So the electors in this state would have voted for the blue candidate, and the blue candidate would have gotten all the electoral votes for this state.
And red would get 0, a big change.
This is really strange. We are going to explain how this can work, right?
Okay, it can lead to some odd results, and you want...
It can lead to some very strange things. I figured it out. If you are one candidate and I am another candidate, and we use over there to work, down there you have popular votes, so that you have little people to represent all of the voters, and then I have a list of the electoral votes and how many electoral college votes each state gets and how many voters are in each state. And back here I have some more states, and so you pick a state, and then I tell you how many the votes are, and it is the electoral votes that go here, and they're the ones that count. And I'm going to use marbles to represent the electoral votes. So if you win the state, you win all the marbles.
All the marbles.
Because it's winner take all in most states.
I like that. I like that. Okay.
So pick a state from back here.
Okay. I'm going to take a big state.
Oh, that is a big
very
state.
big state,
Okay.
which is?
That state is, that is Texas.
Texas.
Texas has a lot of people in it. It has a lot of electoral votes. It has a lot of voters. So let's see. In Texas, 5 million people voted for the winner, and you are the winner. So 5 million people voted for you.
This time, each one of these will represent 1 million voters.
That is a million voters.
Okay, so we got 1,
5 of them.
2, 3, 4, 5.
And 4 million Texans voted for me.
For you. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then I have the electoral votes back here. Texas has 38 electoral votes. That's a lot.
That is. Okay, but it's winner take all.
Yep.
Even though it was close, 5 million to 4 million, I get all 38 for Texas, and you get 0.
I get 0 because it is winner take all. Okay, now I'm going to choose a state. I want this state. This state is Missouri, sometimes called Missouri. Anyway, this state is the state that I'm choosing. It has a lot of people, but, it's kind of a medium-sized state. And in Missouri, 2 million people voted for me. I'm the winner, so 2 million people voted for me in Missouri.
And for me?
1 million people voted for you.
And 1 million for me. Okay, so you win Missouri.
I get 10 electoral votes for Missouri. Whoa. Okay. All right. And you have to get at least 270 electoral votes to win the election. So that's what we're going for.
Okay, my turn?
Yep, pick another state.
Gonna take a state that's small in area, but it has a lot of people. It is
Ohio.
Ohio.
Round ends and high in the middle, it's Ohio. Ohio has 3 million people voted for you.
Okay, 3 million for me. 2, 3 million, and for
2
you?
million people voted for me. I used to do shows in Ohio. They
2 million for Leslie.
And Ohio has 18 electoral votes.
Okay, and I get them all.
Yes. Okay, good. Oh, I need some state with more people. Oh, this state has a lot of people. Okay, this state has a lot of people. This state is Florida. Things get really crazy in Florida during elections. You should check out the 2000 election if you're interested, because things were just nuts in Florida that year. Okay, so I chose Florida. In Florida, 7 million people voted for me.
7 million for
7
you.
million
Wow, that's a
for
lot.
me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and for me.
1 million people voted for you in Florida.
What? Hold Hold it, 1 million?
Yeah, 1 million people voted for you in Florida.
I know, but you got 7 million.
I know. Your mother has friends who retired to Florida, and so
Yeah.
they all got together and voted for Joanne's son. That would be you.
Well, that may be, but you see, you got 7 million, and if I only have 1 million, that looks pathetic.
Yes, it does. I get 29 electoral votes from Florida. Okay, I think that they understand how this is all kind of working out with the popular vote and the electoral vote.
Okay.
Electoral vote is what counts. So let's just do one more state each.
All right, so this is the last one.
This is the last one.
In that case, I'm going to take the state with the most people of all, and that is
California has
California.
so many voters. Whoa, it is lots. Oh, it is full of voters. Lots of people are there. Okay, 7 million voters in California voted for you.
That is more like it. 7 million. 1, 2,
There's a lot of people
3,
there.
4,
The smallest 20
5,
states in population,
6,
you combine all of
7.
those and they still don't have as many people living there as California does.
Okay, how many did you get?
6 million people in California voted for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million. It's close, 7 million to 6 million, but I get all. Whoa.
California has 55 electoral votes. You get all 55 of California's electoral votes. Whoa, you win the marbles. Good job. Okay, I know what state I want. This is my last state.
Okay.
I want a state that's really big in size. The biggest state in size is Alaska. Alaska is huge. These are islands and these are islands, but if you put it up to the same scale in a map of the contiguous 48, this would go from Minnesota to Texas, from California to Florida. Alaska is enormous. Whoa, big Alaska. However, hardly anybody lives in Alaska. Alaska, 1 million people voted for me in Alaska.
1 million for Leslie and for me.
0.
Hold it. Are you rounding down to 0 million?
I am not.
0 votes?
No one in the entire state wanted to vote
Nobody.
for each day. Nobody.
So, okay.
I get all 3 of Alaska's electoral votes.
Okay. Let's see where we are with the election. The electoral votes determines who's going to become president, and I'm way ahead in electoral votes.
Yeah, they seem to think that you would make a better president.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm ahead, that's for sure. But let's also look at the popular vote.
These are the number of people who actually voted for us. So let's count by 5s. You put them up there in 5s. We can do that.
We'll count by 5s. For you, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22
million people voted for me.
I see you made these down here. Okay.
Oh, yeah. You've got, and you also have million.
So 22
There's a million there.
million.
22 million people voted for me. Voters
For
voted
Leslie.
For me.
Okay. And for me?
5, 10, 15, 16, 17 million people voted for you. There should be.
All right.
Yeah.
And I get 17
million.
Okay,
So 22 million people voted for me and 17 million people voted for you. However, if you look at the electoral votes, and these are the ones that count, this is what you get elected with, you are way ahead of me.
So this is something that can happen in our system. One candidate gets more people voting for them, the other candidate gets more electoral votes and becomes president.
Hello.
Hello. There you are.
Here we are.
That was wonderful. I learned so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So some of the questions that we have for you tonight are, oops, hold on here. Can you tell us about your optional online follow-up discussions?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that we have found when we do this program in person, this is one of the programs where we get a lot of questions directly related to the subject matter because so many people don't understand the Electoral College. not a lot, not just fifth graders. So we can do question and answers. We've got a couple of things ready to go in case they aren't sure how to ask a question or what.
Conversation starters.
Conversation starters, yeah. Yes.
And it was said in the introduction, but we want to point out again that this is one of two videos that go together to make an election special. This one was the Electoral College. We also have one about gerrymandering. And the idea is that classes can watch those back to back if they want to. They could watch them at different times. And then we can do a follow-up, usually with one classroom at a time.
To kind of help facilitate a discussion about civics and Electoral College and gerrymandering.
You've kept us in suspense. What do Nebraska and Maine do with the electrical college that is different from the other 48 states?
All right. Well, in Nebraska, in the other 48, it's winner take all. So every state gets 2 electoral votes because they have 2 senators, and then for however many representatives they have.
Like Connecticut has 7 electoral votes. They have 5 representatives and 2 senators, I think.
Right. But in Nebraska and Maine, they can have a split vote.
It's
so
called the congressional district method. And so depending on what your congressional district, who your congressional district votes for, that's who your electoral college goes for. And then the 2 that go with the senator go for whoever wins the state statewide.
Right, and this has actually come up, I know, a couple of times. In Nebraska, they've had a split of I think 4 votes to 1.
And Maine did last time in 2016, 1 went for, I believe, Trump, and the rest of them, Maine went for Clinton. So each state has split in recent years.
Right, and it's up to each state to determine how they do this.
Well, what made you think of doing a program like this?
When our 2 daughters were in an age where they were getting interested in how the political system worked in the year 2000.
20 years ago, the popular vote split from the electoral vote. We didn't know who had won the election for 3 weeks.
I remember.
And so it seemed like we spent those 3 weeks explaining to our children every day what was going on and why it was so strange.
And a lot of adults were confused as well.
Yes.
So we thought we need to find a way to explain how this can happen. Some people think it should be changed. Some people think it's fine, but you should understand the way it is now.
Yeah.
Well, and we have a couple of minutes. Can you tell us about some of your other programs?
Sure. One of them is some of our favorite numbers.
That was my favorite.
And we do different numbers for different reasons that we like them. 36 is a square number and a triangular number.
We talk about square roots and multiplication and repeated addition. We use 13 rolls of toilet paper to explain division. It's a whole lot of fun. And it's math. And one of the things I really like is making math fun and making it visual so that you can see the math working. Yeah, I really like some of our favorite numbers.
And she really likes the number 317,537.
I do, yes.
Because if you turn it upside down, it spells Leslie.
I think we also have our letters, numbers, shapes, and colors, which is a kindergarten program, which is about letters, numbers, shapes, and colors, and we do juggling and mime and all kinds of fun stuff.
And that one is available virtually. We've got that one on video. And then another new one that we have that is virtual and aimed at the K-2 set is called Emotion Detectives.
Yeah, it deals with social emotional learning and how to cope with and identify emotions. And we play games and it's
we use mime and a game about identifying emotions and also teaching some techniques, breathing techniques and perception techniques on how to manage your emotions when they become
things that might be
overwhelming. Yeah. And that one is a series of 3 videos that are each about 9 or 10 minutes. And again, the idea is there to be able to watch those repeatedly, and we can do an optional follow-up session with that one where we would play the game and with the kids in the classroom.
We also have a PDF of the game that can be sent to the classroom and the teachers so they can print it out and create their own version of it's a face game and yeah.
So yeah.
But it's social emotional learning.
Yeah.
What's really exciting about all of this is usually when you come to Connecticut and tour, you only offer a few shows because you can't pack it all. And now with virtual, you have so much to offer. So it's kind of nice for everybody to know that also, that, you know, we can do so much more now because it's all virtual.
And that we don't have the time restriction either.
Exactly. Yeah, no tour dates, or we can just kind of do what we have to do, so.
Right. And we've kind of concentrated on some shorter videos because we found that the schools are a lot of times strapped for time right now, and where it makes sense to do a longer program if you're coming to the school, to be able to break it up gives the school more flexibility.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Be well, and hopefully we'll keep you busy soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Lorraine.
Bye-bye. Okay, so, and next up we have Caryn Lynn. Caryn began violin lessons at age 9 and studied under Philadelphia Orchestra's Larry Grieca until college, where she earned a violin performance degree from Northwestern University. Upon graduation, she moved to Germany to study with a world-renowned violinist. Caryn has performed everywhere from the Kimmel Center and Lincoln Center to the Crayola Crayon Factory and the Caruthium Monastery in the French Alps. Her music has been featured on MTV's The Real World and on and over 150 radio stations in the US, UK, Spain, and Venezuela, and on satellite radio. She and her music appear in the movie Philadelphia, her 5th studio album. The Call was released in 2006. A 6th CD is currently in the works. Since 2001, Caryn has worked with 500,000 kids in over 3,500 schools and community venues. In the amazing multimedia presentation, Science of Sound, Caryn literally transforms sound through the use of her 5-string electric violin and a myriad of the modern technology. The program takes students on a journey from the classical days of Bach to today's techno wonders. Using modern techniques, including looping and other effects to produce unique and dynamic soundscapes, audiences are introduced to the many scientific concepts involved in the creation of live music. Through the use of technology, 3-dimensional sound waves become visible, bringing music to life and the audience's very eyes. Caryn was one of the first AFLCT artists to convert her programming to the virtual format. She's a real pro. Take it away, Caryn.
I'm here with Caryn Lynn. She's good. Yeah, I like her. She does fun stuff. She's creative. She's out of the box. I'll tell you that much. She is out of the. What box? That's what I say. What box?
Hello. How's it going? Excellent. Thanks, Aunt Linda. That's my Aunt Linda. She'll be back. Welcome to Studio Steamarama. All right, I'm going to play a piece of music that I wrote. It is a Native American, West African, techno-tribal, Australian, cosmic, Celtic, dance, rock, Egyptian piece. So check out how many sounds you hear that may or may not sound like a violin. And also check out how the sounds make you feel. And one more thing, all the music that you're about to hear has not been recorded before. It's all being done right now. That's made possible by something called looping. Let's all read the screen together. Here we go. Looping. I heard you. Well, how many different sounds did you hear? You can call the answers out in this show today. The right answer is a lot. Lot of sounds. We heard you. Okay, my name is Caryn Lynn, and I'm here today to show you some fun things you can do with science, sound, technology, electricity, and a 5-string electric violin. Question number 1. What is science? Science is a way or system of learning about stuff by using facts. Like 1 and 1 is 2. That's a fact. Or like E = MC squared. That's a fact too. I heard you. Question number 2. What is sound? I said, what is sound? Sound is a form of energy that moves from here to there by invisible waves called sound waves or vibrations. Wait a minute. Sound waves flying around in the air and it'll blow your mind. Okay, what's this instrument called? Traditional acoustic violin. Acoustic violin, electric violin. How many strings on traditional acoustic violins? 4. That's right. All traditional acoustic violins have 4 strings. Well, do we need electricity to hear this? No. All right, let's check it out. Special sounds are sound effects. So the reason I started playing electric violin in the first place was because of all the sound possibilities, all the different colors that you can get using the technology that you can't get any other way. And any feeling or emotion that I'm having, it's here. And that's the great thing about music. You know, sometimes you don't have words for your feelings or emotions, and you don't need them. You don't have to play an instrument. You can sing, you can clap, you can rap, you can snap, you can play things around your house as long as it's safe. That's Bruce back there. Or you can listen. Do you guys, anyone out there have a favorite song? Of course you do. I do. Right. How do they make you feel? So I'm going to demo the sounds for you, and as I play them, I'm going to tell you how they make me feel. So just check out how they make you feel. It's kind of like playing with sound to create emotional expression. Okay, the first one is a phase shifter. This one makes me feel silly or like laughing. What does this remind you of? What's it remind you of? Outer space, the future, video games, aliens. Give me a kiss, Aunt Linda. Aunt Linda's cool. She's all-inclusive. She doesn't care where people are from. All right. So I decided to write a new song using as many of the sound effects as I could. And I did do that. But the thing of it is it doesn't have a name. Right now it's a song with no name. So like a horse? Like a horse. So we need you to help us name that song. And please name that song based on how all of it makes you feel. Okay. So that part makes me feel like there's something coming down the pike. What could it be? Moving right along. So you know what, you guys? What? Because we have electricity, you can actually see sound waves.
What? Excuse me? Did she just say you can see sound waves?
Mm-hmm. It's made possible by something called an oscilloscope. And what it does is it draws pictures of sound waves. Okay, all right, there we go. Scoporama. So that's what my voice looks like when I'm speaking normally. Now watch what happens when I sing the lowest note that I can. Now I'm going to put this microphone a little closer because I cannot sing this very loudly. Okay, ready, Bruce? I got to ask Bruce if he's ready. All right, ready? Oh. They're kind of far apart. Now watch what happens when I sing the highest note that I can. Ready, Bruce?
Yep.
Ouch. More, ouch. More waves. Never said I was a singer. More waves closer together. Guess what?
What?
You can do the same exact thing with your voice. So now I'm going to sound really big like...
Darth Vader, hello.
I am so done with that big thing. Now I'm going to sound small.
Like a mouse. Amelia. Hello. My name's me.
Okay. Time for a tour of Studio Steamorama. Come with me on a steam-powered journey. Check out the techno wonders of my 5-string electric violin, sound effects, looping, and sound wave rearranging. And come on a tour of Studio Steamorama, where we plant seeds for imaginative, out-of-the-box thinking.
Hope you had fun. And if you were here, I'd give you a big hug. So this is what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to skip this. Oh, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hey, how's it going? That was fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here, AFLCT.
You have such an amazing setup there. Can you tell us about your camera setup?
Yes, we have 7 cameras. And let's see. So, I mean, we have one here. You can't see them, but they're... Actually, Bruce, switch some cameras.
Okay.
They're located, some are low, some are really high, some are medium, and yeah, that's the camera setup. And Bruce has a gizmo that enables him to switch cameras quickly. A switcher.
Wow, that's impressive. When did you start to play the violin and how did you learn?
I started playing when I was 9 years old in the public schools in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And then I just kept taking lessons all the way through middle school, high school, college, and then when I went to Germany, I had some lessons too, and then no more lessons. Well, lessons in a different way, teaching myself how to use the electronics and stuff.
Now that's another whole art in its own.
It is. You're right. It really is learning how to use the electronics, and because on the different days, some things sound different too, so you never know exactly what you're going to get. And sometimes when you're having a malfunction, it makes a unique sound that you can't ever repeat, so that's kind of interesting too. And there's no end to it. It just keeps going and going, because you can use the different sound effects in different ways, so.
Yeah, usually your show is very interactive. Can you tell us how you would interact with the students with your presentation now that it's virtual?
Sure. So the show is a live streaming show with only a few quick video clips. And that demonstration that you guys saw is a compilation of a show that we did, and we put it together so we could have the video. So the interactive part is when I coach the kids from the very beginning on how they feel, since we're talking about SEL a lot now in the schools, the social and emotional learning, coaching them from the beginning, how do these make you feel? And then when I demo the pedals, the same thing. I tell them how they make me feel and ask them to think about how they make them feel. And then for the song that they name, the song with no name, it's totally based on their feelings and reactions to what they hear. And so at the end of the show, we have the chat, and that's when they can type in their answers to what the song is, or if they have questions.
So that means a part of your virtual show is also live?
The whole thing is live, except for a few quick videos. Oh, it's all live except for quick clips like that. The rest of it is, yeah, it's not video.
Okay, good to know. How do you vary the shows for the different age groups?
For the younger kids, the show's a little bit shorter, and we leave out some of the more of the scientificness of it. And for the middle school age, we add more scientific stuff, and I'm not asking them about electricity because they all know how electricity works. So I leave a few things out. And I explain more about the pickups on the violin. Like the pickups are, ooh, let's see. Here we go, I'm moving over here. I'm dyslexic, so I always move the wrong way. So this is the bridge, and I explain how the pickups work for the older kids, so because they can understand that. So
yeah, you have all those foot pedals on the floor. Are they calibrated to do different things a certain way? How many are there, and what made you even think of doing something like that? It's so cool.
Well, thank you. When I was in Germany, my very last night when I was in the country, at that time I was playing in a country band, and I had a pickup on my acoustic violin, and one of the guitar players, it was one of those nights where they had a whole bunch of bands in the room, and everyone was on different stages, and I had a pickup, and the technology then was horrendous. It sounded awful, but anyway, a guitar player from another band saw that I had a pickup, and he came over to me and asked me if I wanted to try his echo box, his digital delay. And I thought, you're what? I mean, I knew they had stuff for guitar players, but I didn't think I could do that on a violin. So I went over to his stage, and he plugged in my cable and started noodling with the dials, and I felt like Alice in Wonderland. I just couldn't believe that I could do those cool sounds on my violin, even the acoustic violin. And so then when I left Germany and I came back to the States, 6 months later, I bought this violin in 1987, and it has a lot of you can see things are worn off. So all the varnishes, a lot of it's worn off. And as a matter of fact, Gideon and I are kindred spirits. His cello is made by the same person that made my violin. Yay!
Oh, that's
and,
fun.
The pedals are, I wouldn't say they're. You can change. One thing I like about them is I even tell the kids this, that they're kind of dum-dum proof because they're colored, they're labeled, and they have a light. And you can touch them, and as opposed to something being completely computerized, you can change the dials, and it changes the sound. And it's really easy to use, and they're reliable. They're very hands-on, and they're either on or off. The looper box, however, is pretty high-tech computerized stuff. So I always tell people that our studio Steamorama is high-tech and low-tech. Old school, new school.
Yeah, well, it definitely works, and it's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for sharing the evening with us and sharing your wonderful talents in music.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Bye. Well, that was amazing. But before we move on to our last program for the evening, I want to mention that we recently updated our search engine to include some criteria for digital and virtual programming. We encourage you to use that search criteria when looking for programming for your purposes this year. Most of our artists can comply with whatever needs you have this year. We will drop the link into the chat for you. And then tonight, our final artist, the ever-popular Blue Jupiter. Blue Jupiter is an edgy pop-funk band that has everything to offer but instruments. The recent winners of the Oreo Milk's Favorite Jingle contest, hosted by America's Idol's Randy Jackson, can be heard on the radio nationwide performing their funky pop version of the classic Oreo jingle. Blue Jupiter rocked audiences recently, headlining at VH's One Save the Music event in Oswego, New York, Breaking the Cycle, annual AIDS fundraiser, and the international tour to Hong Kong. Blue Jupiter was a featured act at the Harmony Sweepstakes, both in Washington, D.C. and New York City, winning audience favorites and best arrangement for 2 years in a row. Blue Jupiter's debut album, Ear Candy, was nominated for the Best Contemporary Album of the Year by the Contemporary A Cappella Society, and they have since produced 2 more albums, Scattered Flurries and Live in New York City. With a 4th on the way, Blue Jupiter redefines popular music in the studio and on stage, and they do it all with only their voices. Tonight, Blue Jupiter will demonstrate a cappella in a variety of styles, presenting the use of vocal percussion, past and future art of the form. This is an interactive educational assembly where the students get a chance to sing, try vocal percussion, direct questions to the band, and answer a few questions at the end of the assembly about what they've learned. Take it away, Marty.
Try one more time. What is a cappella?
Let's get all of Stanley singing with Blue Jupiter.
Whoa, that's a brilliant idea. Do you guys want to sing with us this morning? Yeah! All right, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to sing something and you repeat after me. Sound good? Awesome, here we go. Everybody in the house say yeah, yeah. Say whoa, whoa. Whoa. Say yeah, yeah. Say whoa, whoa. Say yeah. Say whoa. Come on, yeah, yeah. Oh, oh, oh. Baby's good to me, you know. She's happy as can be, you know she says so. Say I'm in love with her, and I feel fine. Come on now, she's in love with me, and I feel fine. Ice cold milk and Oreo cookie, they forever go together. Oh, icy cold sensation, like the one and only creamy crunchy chocolate. Oh, I eat, treasure the planet, that is what you are. The planet, you're my golden star. The planet, I think you make my wish come true. The planet, if you let me treasure you. The planet, if you let me treasure. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Now, one of the things that Blue Jupiter gets asked all the time is, how do you do that? Well, Stanwich, I'm going to break it down for you and explain how Blue Jupiter arranges a song for a cappella. First, you got to start with the bass. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, da, ding, 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 ding. See, the bass lays the foundation for the melody and the harmony, and is part of what's called the rhythm section. Now, another very important part of the rhythm section, as you may have guessed, is the drums. We in Blue Jupiter are fortunate enough to have one guy capable of singing both the bass and the drum parts at the same time. Give him a little reminder, It's Blue Jupiter's one-man rhythm section. Marty Gasper, give it up! Alright, Marty's holding down the rhythm section over there. We gotta build on top of that with the harmony. And in a band with instruments, the harmony will be taken care of by a keyboard or a guitar or horns or something like that. But since Blue Jupiter sings a cappella, music without instruments, we take care of the harmony with our voices. Start to sound like a song that you might recognize. harmonize. Multiple notes working together to create chords and harmony. The final ingredient is the melody, and that's taken care of by the lead vocalist. I know you guys know this song, so I want y'all to sing along. Let's take it to the bridge, guys. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4. You are my treasure. You are my treasure. You are my treasure. And you are my treasure. You are my treasure. You are my treasure. Yeah, you treasure. Come on. That is what you are. You're my golden star. You make my wish come true. You let me treasure you. You let me treasure you. Arrange a song for acapella.
So acapella, tell me one more time, what is acapella? Awesome. They're demonstrated a few minutes ago. Acapella music can be heard anywhere. In movies like Pitch Perfect, television shows like Blue Jupiter's own Pitch Slapped, and even on the radio, like when Blue Jupiter sings our Oreo cookie theme song. But you might not know that acapella music has been around for a very long time. In fact, it's been around for over 1,000 years. So what we're going to do right now is go back in time over 1,000 years ago to visit and demonstrate some different styles of a cappella music.
Marty, did you just say we're going to go back in time?
Yeah, Jeff, we have to go back in time over 1,000 years ago to demonstrate really the beginning of a cappella.
But how are we going to do that?
Yeah, Marty.
I don't know, maybe you guys didn't know, but today, to Stanwich, we brought with us a very special vehicle. Yeah, today, we brought with us the Time Machine Funk Bus.
What?
The Time Machine. The Time Machine. The Time Machine Funk Bus. Here we go. Start it up.
Hands up, funk bus. Get into the funk bus. Come on, put your hands up, funk bus. Get into the funk bus. Everybody say, hey, yeah. Say, oh, whoa. Say, hey, yeah. 3, 2, 1, put the brakes on.
Seatbelts off. What we've done is we've used our imagination a little bit to go back in time over 1,000 years ago, where a cappella music emerges for the first time, and it's known as Gregorian chant. Now this sounds a little different to our ears, right? Because today, we don't typically listen to music that sounds like this. One voice singing all by themselves without any instruments. But 1,000 years ago, it was the first time anybody had heard anything like it. And it's called Gregorian chant. Now, Gregorian chant was a picture, if you will, 4 singers wearing red and white striped vests, maybe a straw hat or a red bow tie, singing a style of a cappella music known as barbershop. I love to sing 'em, I love to ring 'em, love those barbershop, barbershop chords. Give me those barbershop chords.
Thank you. So that
All right.
Hey, Marty, that was awesome, like always.
Thanks, Lorraine. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So a few things that were missing from that video, because it was hard to choose, like what do you put to showcase our live program, and how would you even demonstrate that it happens virtually? But one of the cool things, I'm just going to take a minute to do a little sample of it now that isn't in that video, is the entire beatbox lesson of our program. Because one of the main things that we talk about in our program from a musicality standpoint is the importance of rhythm and how fun a cappella can be, because learning how to beatbox, be the drummer for your group, can be taught in just a few minutes. And so I'm just going to take a real quick second here to showcase what it is to be a beatboxer. And since we're at home and socially distanced, we don't have to worry about any transmission between people, and we can just beatbox to our heart's content in our own private residence. So here it goes. You'll understand what I mean. It gets a little bit sloppy. But first of all, being a beatboxer is just repurposing the alphabet into different ways so that you can create some beats and rhythm. So we'll start with the letter B. If you say the letter B, buh, and then you say it a little bit lower, now you have the bass drum. Then you can add the letter T and the letter S, and you have a hi-hat cymbal, and that sounds like this. And then the third sound is the snare drum, and you take the sound of the letter P and the sound of the letter F and force those together, and you have something that sounds like this. So if you put all three sounds together, you have a beat that goes a little bit like something like this. And with just a little bit of practice after our assembly, all of our beatboxers go home and try things like and it's a little bit sloppy, but it's a lot of fun.
I believe you also include that in your workshop.
Yeah, so we do have some breakout sessions that we can come in to do workshops with smaller numbers of kids. Particularly with the elementary, we like to do a little bit more in-depth with the beatboxing, so we can be in a classroom setting and really like work together at creating rhythms as an ensemble and as individuals. So it's a great pairing that once you see the entire show on the stage, that we can then come into the classroom and really sort of workshop some of the things that we talk and teach about within the presentation. Speaking of workshops, we also have other things adjacent with music technology, which touch on some STEM functions, so we can really get into that science and tech and engineering side of things, where we can go into a school, go into some classrooms, whether it's music or otherwise, and demonstrate how we actually make commercial recordings. We bring a computer and a full recording studio, components like a microphone, and we set something up so that kids can actually get a chance to record and put a song together with just using their voices.
Is it possible to do that kind of a workshop virtually in these times?
It's a little more challenging to do that virtually because there is an element that requires synchronizing your singing with pre-existing stuff that you've recorded. So, you know, in a multi-track situation, when you are live, you would record something, and then you would record something else on top, and then something else on top of that, and then you have an entire chord or parts of the song. Remotely, as we all experience, there's a delay in the time that you say something by the time the other person hears it. So it's a bit more challenging to do things remotely. However, as part of our workshop programs, we can include subject matter like that, so we can demonstrate and you can hear and see the process unfold. So it wouldn't give the kids the chance to record their own selves live in that situation, but we would certainly be able to demonstrate and show how the programs work themselves.
Are you also doing your programs virtually? Are they live? Are they pre-recorded?
So we're offering up a couple different solutions. So of course, we're taking all COVID-19 precautions across the board. The band consists of just a few people, and we're all podded, which we've been very careful about our exposure to others, and we're keeping ourselves a very tight-knit family so that we're not exposing ourselves to the outside world so much. So if we do have a situation where we can come into a school, we of course will be fully masked and fully barriered. We bring our own sound system and our own microphones, and we'll make sure to keep socially distanced at 20 feet or more within whatever space that we're in. And as time progresses and we find the ability and comfortability with schools to do that sort of thing, we will certainly do that and adhere to every precaution we can take. But virtually, the nice thing is that we have a collection of some videos we've already recorded, but we also have a live component to it. So the attendees get a real, true experience of what it's like to be in the room with us as we're singing, because we are virtually in the room together and can respond to question and answer and put things together on the spot and really personalize the experience. So it's not just watching a video. Also, we sing a cappella. And I think sometimes when people watch videos on YouTube or the like, and although that's described as a cappella, there's a lot of studio stuff going on, and we want to be true to the art form and make sure that what we're presenting is a realistic version of who we are and what you can do with the human voice, and not something that you can perfect later in the studio. So it is a great mix of live singing, live performance, live teaching, with some videos thrown in too to help supplement and keep the attention of all of our virtual viewers.
Okay. And what's the difference in your programs between the lower grades, upper grades, high school? How do you differentiate those performances?
The subject matter is across all of the grades is very similar in that we're talking about the basics of human singing. At the younger grades, it's all about presentation. You know, we can have a program for the kindergarten through second grade kids, and of course that's presented in a much more animated way than you would for the middle schoolers or into the high school, where then you can relate to them almost more on a peer level than as a presentation level. So the content is very similar across all of them, but it is our approach and how we deliver that information is scaled based on what's age appropriate to their attention span and their ability to comprehend. Now, we also expand some of the technical side of our presentation with going into more detailed descriptions and definitions of some of the terms, because there's a lot of vocabulary, interestingly enough, especially with the history of a cappella and some of the words that we use to describe music. We can talk about, you know, with the older kids and students that have music class and are in choirs and that sort of thing, we can get really into the nuts and bolts. So, of course, when we come into a school, we have had conversations leading up to our performance to know what it is that we're presenting to, and we really tailor that experience to the audiences.
All right, and a couple of people want to know, do you still have a connection with the Oreo cookie people?
You know, that is a cookie that will never disappear from our life, and we do. You know, it was the introduction that you used is a highlight reel of some of our earlier work as a band. And the Oreo seems to be a theme that we've always revisited. You know, we are Broadway Records recording artists. We just released Twisted Broadway Volume 1 a couple years ago.
Right.
We're very proud of that project. We've been invited to Russia as U.S. ambassadors for music education. In fact, we did a tour in December where we went throughout the entire country of Russia and performed to schools and orphanages and even the heads of state in Moscow. And it was really just an incredible performance and an honor to be that for this country. But no matter where we go, that cookie seems to follow us. Our most recent foray into that was a big project that we did with the superstar group Pentatonics and Blue Jupiter, paired together with an artist named Adam Young. His band is Owl City. And the three of us did a giant product launch in New York City where we shut down one of the giant parks and had a big, massive crowd that we arranged music for, and there was television, and it was just a big spectacle. It was a lot of fun. So it seems like every couple of years, Oreo calls us back and says, hey, you're the Oreo guys. We want to do this other project. We have this other thing coming up. So there might even be some Oreo stuff in our future. So we'll see.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and it was a fun evening for everything, and give our best and be well, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye, Marty. Well, everybody, that's a wrap. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Thank you for tuning in today, and our next virtual showcase is Monday, October 19th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Please visit our website, AFLCT.org showcase, and click on that date for the link and register. All showcase events are open and free to the public, and also will have live streamed on Facebook, as well as recorded for you to watch if you can't make it. So if you want to go back and visit our website and see what you've missed, please do so. We hope you have a great week. Stay safe, wash your hands, and wear that mask. Good night, everybody.